teacups, what's brewing? Welcome back to the channel. I'm pretty tired. I slept about 2 hours. By the time I'd edited and uploaded my last video, it was somewhere near 4 a.m. I got up early. It wasn't good, it wasn't pretty, but I dragged myself through the day and I thought, you know what, let's learn none of those lessons and let's just do it again. It's not quite as late this time. It is about 20 past 8, but fortunately the chunks I'm talking about from the bathtub live were all kind of in one area, so it didn't take too long to cut down, and hopefully, fingers crossed and knock wood, there won't be too many edits in this. So we'll do our best, I just want to talk a little bit about the money situation Foodie is in at the moment. I find it as a topic, I find it quite interesting. I definitely find it more interesting than Nada, put it that way. And I was talking in my last video, I was like, oh, I wonder where this is and what's going on with this. And then she started chatting about it in this live, and it was all kind of bunched up in the middle, so it was easy to cut out. I was like, yeah, okay, why not? I do have notes, I have numbers, because I did a little bit of Googling of Canadian taxes and brackets and federal and provincial, because I find that stuff interesting. I do realise it makes me a little bit nosy, but I think given what we see showcased on the channel, and given that the idea of her having to tighten her belt and the idea of her not having as much money and joking about having to make deals with bailiffs and a lot of that kind of stuff, it's been more prevalent in that just joking, but oh yeah, I'm doing this sort of a way. And it's come up often enough that I do think it's an issue, and she does talk about it a little bit more. In a Christmas miracle, this was a live she did by herself, which was lovely. So I'm going to take the opportunity to not have to look at his face for a while and just to get back to reacting to her about something still problematic, but less kind of cringy. So I've got 7 minutes and 40 seconds cut out of her initial big live stream, and hopefully this should be a shorter video from me. So let's get started.
Your income has gone up since memberships. I've done nothing to invest, but I think I should.
Be nice,
Okay,
a little bit of future planning.
Payday? So, the thing with my money is I spend way too much money on myself.
That is a true fact. She spends, her money is her business. And I'm going to preface this whole video with that. She gets to decide how she spends her money, but with how much money she seems to have coming in, the number 12,000 is bandied around a lot just recently, 12,000 a month, then you can't help but look around her and wonder, well, where's it all going, aside from him and drugs, obviously. But she doesn't have a lot to show for her money, which to me just indicates, and we see it all the time, just how wasteful a lot of the choices she's making in her life with her money are. Yeah, and when I say wasteful, I'm not being unkind, but there's a lot of excess in her life that could very easily be done at a lower price point, and she chooses not to, and she gets to choose it, but with all the worries about money, it's a surprising choice.
This is TMI, but whatever, fuck. I spend way too much money on myself. I know people think I do give away a lot of money too, but I also, not a lot of money. Like if somebody's struggling or whatever, I'm helping them out to
I believe that to an extent. I don't think she cares that much for other people at all. Not necessarily in the sense of she thinks I'm not going to help them, as much as she just doesn't think of them at all. I can believe she would hand some money off to Pete when he needs it, and she's mentioned she's paid for things before, but she does hold it over his head. And there is an attempt to exert financial control over Nada that isn't going too well, but the idea that if she can't get him to want to be there, he owes her because of the money. And I think one of the reasons that she gets so annoyed at all of it is technically she is paying for everything and she's still not getting anything. So, it's quite the situation. But she doesn't give away that much, I think. I mean, we do occasionally hear about homeless guys and having sex with them on rocks and stuff like that, and how she gives away her cash, she keeps cash to give away to homeless people. But more recently, she's been keeping cash on her and she's been using it. She's like, oh, I don't have any, or we don't hear those stories as much just recently. I think her money's all been going to her latest habits of cannabis and Nada.
Degree, but I do spend a lot of like useless money on myself.
Yeah.
So no, not Nader's rent.
Sometimes Nada's rent. You've admitted sometimes Nada's rent. Maybe not the most recent month, but definitely sometimes Nada's food, all the time Nada's food, because when he records, we know you've bought the groceries. So, not Nada's rent, but lots of Nada's stuff. Yeah?
So, she just ignore these things.
You should, but you don't, so here we are.
Need to just spend a certain amount of money on myself.
That'd be good. For the amount of money she makes, she really doesn't have to economize that much. Guys, I'm a single person, I earn a decent wage, and I like pretty things. I spend money that definitely I could look at and be, do I need pretty makeup? Do I need to pay somebody to do my nails? Maybe I don't, but I have the money and I like it and it makes me enjoy my life a little bit more. I don't begrudge her that. But I think she has enough to also have a balance of doing something a bit more sensible and thinking a little bit more long term, which historically speaking isn't something she's particularly great at.
You know, like maybe budget like a certain amount for makeup, certain amount for clothes, certain amount for...
Don't go without, just budget for it.
Beezing. We should have a beezing budget. Oh my god, that's what I should do with the memberships.
Is her whole life not really the Beezing budget?
I should have a beezing budget. And you guys, I did this when I was in Katimavik, so we had a budget.
Can I just... One, this story, we'll get to it in a minute, but two, she's hearkening back to when she was a teenager. That's how long it's been since she's lived on a budget. She was 18. And this is what she did with the budget.
And we all got to decide what we wanted to do with the money. And we had like, this was like bad though, we had like $400 for the month for like 12 people to do something leisure. And I spent the whole budget on those salsa lessons I tell you, and everyone was mad at me. Anyways, I got to flirt with a cute Spanish guy. That's all I care about.
Yeah, so that's the story. I hadn't heard that story before. It's probably been a story time she's told before. But you can see that consideration for others has never really been high on her priority list. She's with a group, they've got a limited budget. I want to know how she got put in charge of that budget and how she got away with booking those lessons without running it by everybody if the money was for everybody. She probably just went out and did it, but you know, she got what she wanted and that's the important thing, isn't it?
And he said I could salsa dance good. Maybe he's paid to say that.
Maybe, but then Nada's paid and he doesn't say things like that to you, so...
Beezing budget. So I have a budget to do things like trips or whatever, and we can all decide what to do. It could be it could be fun because it's like a budgeting exercise for me, and also
I think it could be fun, but in the sense of it would be nice to see her have a budget, have a structure and stick to it, which is why I don't think it's going to happen, because one, it would make her members too happy, and two, it would require a consistency that thus far we have never seen from her. Not now, not ever. So her being able to do it, no, I don't think so, but it's a nice enough idea. But I do find it convenient that she's hard up for money and she's like, guys, you know what would be really exciting? A budget. Don't you think we should do budgeting for the Beezers? And they're like, well, what are we paying $5 a month for the day? We're giving you more money to Beez. What?
I only remembered also Tostitos and salsa. Like let's say we were down to like our last $30 in the budget and we have to really come up with something fun to do.
Which would you would assume therefore like negate the idea of a budget, because isn't the point of planning your money so that you don't kind of get down to the dregs and you're like, oh god, what to do? Now, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. We've all been there when we're like, payday is a week away and you're a little lower down in the budget than you intended to be. Like, it happens, of course. Even like, yeah, it's Foodie, yeah, we rag on her. No, it happens. It's a normal thing. But she's got high hopes for this plan working, clearly. I mean, it's all theoretical. It's never going to happen. Suppose we could just laugh about it.
Like, what do you think?
I think it's a great pie in the sky idea that you'll never do. Even though it's a completely normal, insane thing to do. I'd love to see it. I'll never will.
She might not help Amber pay for gastric bypass. I don't need to help Amber.
What?
I'm sure she's got it.
That's a bizarre thing. Is Amber trying to get a gastric bypass again? Is that what's happening now? It's been so long since I've checked in with her. As far as I saw, she stopped doing lives and started doing regular videos again, but clicked in and I just didn't care. So I clicked out again. That's where I got with Amber. I used to follow her so closely and then I stopped caring. So, I mean, I wouldn't guarantee she has the money for gastric bypass either, because remember, she saved up the money and then I guess she just spent it. So another person who doesn't save massively well.
Actually, flop era, a big part of my budget is going towards weed, yes.
Shock.
Because that's my medication. Actually, it's not bad.
Don't you dare. No. Not only is it not your medication, it can be medication. It can be prescribed by a doctor. I'm not denying that. I'm not judging that. Not only is it not your medication, it directly lies in opposition to what your doctor actually asked you to do, which was to come off it and try a different prescribed drug because she didn't feel like it was a good choice for you. So it's my medication. No. We're not rewriting that piece of history. I will never forget.
Like, I'd say I need about 2 ounces. 2 ounces a month.
I have no sense of how much is a reasonable amount a month, but 2 ounces seems like a lot. I've really got no sense of scale when it comes to the use of cannabis.
Which is about $500 for really good stuff, I'd say. No, for good stuff, it's about $400 a month. For really good stuff.
You cannot convince me, she's going to try in a minute, you cannot convince me for a single solitary second that she is only paying $400 a month for her weed consumption or THC consumption or consumption of the so-called legal drugs that aren't technically legal because they're not technically from the right source. All of that conversation, you cannot convince me I will die on this hill. Absolutely not. Because we have counted up her hauls on this channel. She had one haul that was already over 500. I think it hit 600. I can't quite remember. That was one haul. And yes, it was edibles, but she's not off the edibles either. So no, absolutely not.
If you want shit, $200 a month, but you have to smoke more. So in the end, it's worth it, right?
Not really. I mean, at no point does it cross her mind to do less of it. That's the thing. At no point does it cross her mind to say, okay, because I want to budget and I don't want to give up entirely this habit, which I know is costly and needs to be adjusted, I won't smoke less so I can use a lower price. I won't go back to my doctor and say, can we try that medication to see if I can maybe phase this out because this will be cheaper. But no, let's buy the more expensive one because it's more effective for the blotted out feeling I want to get.
Oh no, edibles are different. But since I've been smoking really good stuff, I don't really do edibles really that much. I bought one edible, the 2,000 milligram one, and I cut it up into little pieces and just ate it for like ever.
I doubt that.
Actually,
I doubt you ate it forever. I really do, because you don't really have a sense of scale or moderation in anything in your life. So what do you consider forever? How long did it last?
we both ate on it.
Oh, minor thing. The phrase ate on it, I know it's a phrase that's more common in North America. And I'm taking North America to be like America and Canada here in the continent of North America. Something about it just sets my teeth on edge. You ate on it? What? Minor point just about me. Sorry. I know it's really common. It's just a me issue, so I hate it. It's not just because she's saying it. I don't like it as a phrase. I don't know why it irritates me, but it does. And secondly, I love how she's like, oh, you know, we both ate on it. And I'm like, well, that doesn't, if you paid for it, that doesn't make a difference because what we're counting here is the money that's going out of your pocket. I did look up to see how much those wheelchair gummies cost. I literally just picked the first website that sold it in Ottawa. It came up as $68. So they're not exactly cheap. You know, she's saying she only bought one, but it's not exactly cheap.
It was like, yeah. So I don't really need them really.
But I take them.
Yeah, it's true. The cats are gonna get groomed and have a checkup, and Pete's is
Still
gonna
going
have his
on.
computer for Christmas. Okay.
This just a bit. Tell me, guys, am I misunderstanding this? I don't think I'm misunderstanding this. Pete is gonna have his computer for Christmas. So wait. So hang on, wait. Now, full credit. She could just mean by Christmas time I will have been paid and I'll give him the money for it. But here's how I heard that statement, whether I'm misinterpreting it or not. Pete is gonna get a computer for Christmas. So the money I kept from him that I promised to give him and didn't, I am then going to use to buy the computer he wanted and give it him for Christmas. So she's not going to buy him another Christmas present. So she kept his money to buy him a gift with. She's using his money to buy a gift. Excuse me, madam? Stop.
Everybody's gonna be happy. Oh no, Liliana, Pete's is waiting for his money too. Yeah, we are following a more stricter budget.
Where?
Just because, like, I'm the only one making any money right now.
Supporting a big family, you guys. She got Nan, she's got Pete, she's got... So he's waiting for money, so I guess he's got money coming in. She does say in a minute he's got money coming in, so which is it? Is this the first month YouTube is paying him?
And I do like to just... I'm used to just being able to just buy whatever I want without really thinking about anything or anybody else. You know what I mean?
I don't actually, as much as you can argue how unfair it is in the world that somebody who puts so little effort into life and seems so unpleasant in many ways gets to live with such privilege when there are people out there who work themselves to the bone, who you feel like morally in any kind of bigger karmic justice way deserve the money better. There are more deserving people in this world than Foodie, put it that way. I can understand why she feels that way. I can. Because if we're to take the amount she claims she makes, right? For the sake of my numbers later, I took 10 grand a month because 12 has been the number she's banded around the last few months, but I don't think it's going to be the number she's had all year. But when you think of that kind of money, before the weed and nada came into the picture, even with her spending an astronomical amount on food, 3 grand, 3.5 grand a month on food, she could do it really without feeling the pinch. And that was the standard she had for herself. It was, if I can just buy what I want and not have to worry about it, then that's all I need. She only needed as much as that. And then it just, at the end of the month came, she had a little bit of padding left in the account. Great, perfect. That's as far as the planning goes. Oh, can I make it through the month? Great. Only now Nada's here and he's expensive, and now her new habits are here that she's clearly not willing to change, and they're expensive. And she's feeling the pinch more because suddenly the money's not going as far.
What about you? Okay, what is your guys? You guys know a lot about me. I don't know anything about you. If you're comfortable sharing, what is your financial situation like? Do you live paycheck to paycheck like most people?
Like most people, and that's what convinces me the most. We've got so much evidence, but that's what convinces me the most. Well, evidence, we've got a lot of hints that she lives paycheck to paycheck. She's got nothing put away. Whenever she felt the pinch, she just went into like no brand chips. You know, she's got no safety net here despite what she's been earning. She doesn't care about her VIBs, but she kind of wants to feel better in the fact that everyone goes through this. If Foodie ever asks you to share information in her chat, please don't do it. It is not a safe space. Please do not be sharing details in there. Fortunately, no one seems to do anything too bad, but she doesn't care about finding out the information. She just wants the support. She just wants to be able to point to one example and say, see, everybody does it.
Or do you have a nice savings, or are you really frugal? Like BB's like that. He's really frugal, for example.
I think
he can live with very little money.
I think she thinks if you have savings, you have to be super frugal. It's kind of the same way she thinks diets have to be kale and quinoa and vegan and high vibrational foods. We always talk about her lack of sense of moderation. She doesn't realize she budgets like she diets. She doesn't seem to realize, or when she used to diet, that there is a middle ground where you can still have a comfortable life, because the kind of money she's got, she could still have a comfortable life and do a lot more to safeguard her future.
You know what I mean? Invest some of my money. I do want to like make my money make money.
Please go to a
Stocks?
financial advisor. Yeah.
Should I?
Stop, if you don't know what you're doing, even if you do know what you're doing, stocks are basically a gamble. There are things you can do to mitigate it. But I think, you know how when we saw her go to the casino, I don't think she would think it through if she had control over that. But I would be all for her going to her accountant and having like a financial advisor recommended and maybe investing some of that money, because anything that could potentially help you in the future is just long-term planning, because I don't see YouTube as a long-term thing. I don't think it's safe to see it as a long-term thing for anyone, really. They could pull the plug tomorrow, and I really wish she could consider that. I mean, I realize the kind of life she leads isn't really a long-term life in any sense with her health issues, but you know, you gotta at least pretend.
That's my grandpa. That's how he became loaded with like freaking stocks. No matter how much money you make, you can always spend. Like, unless you're like a friggin', even millionaires, you ever see people who win the lottery and go broke?
Yeah.
Like, how?
Wouldn't she just be one of those people? Like, how? By just not thinking about what you're spending, by assuming you have a never-ending supply of money and then being surprised when you realize how deep the hole has gotten.
You're very frugal, TTMR. You have to be. You have to be. No matter how much money you make, you have to budget.
You have to be aware of your money at any level, but you don't have to budget that hard to make this work.
And that's like been like a hard lesson for me. And like, I've had a bad financial past, like you all know that, and it's just I never fucking learned. Like, never. Stop buying coffee and edibles. I can't.
You can limit the amount of edibles and weed you buy. You can use not other substances, because I don't quite want it to go there, and I'm still kind of convinced she is using other substances, but you can go to your doctor and be prescribed something that will perhaps give you the same feeling, and that's a huge expense off your mind. You have a coffee machine in your house. You can buy less Starbucks. It's just like when she used to go on long drives to eat. It's just the routine of it that she loves. That's what she loves, and that's why she's not giving it up. She doesn't care about the drink. She cares about the routine of it.
Oh God, those are the things that make life bearable.
Oh,
that's bad. I know.
That's a big statement.
You need things to get through life to make it bearable. But I mean, I'm being realistic.
That isn't realistic. Putting your entire life joy and happiness in the ability to get Starbucks every day and blot yourself out on weed, that's not a realistic way to build your future.
If you had to cut out everything that you like...
Is that everything you like? Find worth in a wider range of things.
I can find ways to make it... Like, I need to budget for these things, basically.
Yeah, you can do that. Just limit it.
Pay your taxes on time.
Oh,
I mean, I do have to do, like... I'll just have to do 2 years' worth. I'm, like, pretty much caught up, except for last year.
Pretty much caught up except for last year. That to me implies there have been issues before last year as well, and that's going to become relevant to the taxes we're going to talk about in a moment, okay? Because it affects part of them. But she doesn't seem to realize how much she is accruing right now, because she purposely works to not think about it and not look it up, because if the reality sets in, it's going to be a little bit, it's that much, you know. I'll let her talk for another few minutes, but we'll talk about it. I forgot that was in there. I meant to cut it.
I'm looking forward to it. You can make 150,000 still end up broke by overspending. Exactly.
Yeah.
How much money a year is 12,000 a month? Is that 150,000?
As a teacher, 12 times 12, Foodie. Come on, sweetheart, you got this. I have confidence. 12 times 12, you can do it.
Can you have some money automatically going to a savings? That's what I need to do.
Yeah,
I need to
another
save
idea.
more money for sure.
Get it out of your account immediately, you don't see it, and then you budget with what you have left.
You thought I had an actual... I do have an accountant, but I don't think they like me right now. I haven't been in touch. I was supposed to get...
They can't do your taxes through osmosis.
All I have to do is email some files.
This is a year
I have
later.
to like go through like every month for the year, go through my receipts, match up my bank statements, like match up my bank statements to purchases, and claim things that were from my videos or things that I, like, you know, like stuff like, I don't know, being self-employed sucks in a lot of ways.
No, it doesn't. It offers you incredible privilege for very little return on your part. And you could have done this month by month and then it wouldn't be this big overwhelming task, but that's not the way she works. So long as she's talking about it, let's talk about some of the numbers, yeah? So for the sake of this calculation, I used 120,000 because like I said, 12 seems to be the latter half of the year, we're going on the year. So she has two sets of taxes to pay as far as I can tell. She has federal and she has provincial. Her federal taxes have different tax brackets. So you can have X amount within that tax bracket and then it goes up and you can have X amount in the next band and you keep moving up until you're out of money. If she's earning 120,000 a year, her federal taxes, her federal taxes, I leant on the space bar, would be in the first band, she would have to pay, her first band is like just over 49 grand, so she would owe 7,353 on that band. The next 49 grand would be 20.5%. These are the 2021 numbers, by the way. So 2020 maybe is very slightly different. She would owe just over 10,000, so 10,049. And then the next band up after that is 26%, which is on her final 22 grand, which would be 5,700 within a little bit of change. Her total number is 23,1100.7. 23,1100. Did I seriously just say that? Speaking of being a teacher. 23,111. It's late, but yeah, that was on me. No problem, I can take the heat. So that's her federal, but then she also has her provincial. So on the same amount, because they're in addition, the first 49 grand she'd pay just over 5% tax, that's 2,475. The second she'd pay 9.15% tax, that's 4,485. And the last 21.9 grand she'd pay just over 11% tax, it would be 2,450. The total she would pay for everything would be 32,523.21 for her taxes for that year based on that income. Now, the reason that her saying, I think I'm pretty much caught up, I think, is that it indicates there were problems. Now, that number doesn't count her penalties and whether she's been late before and they've had to formally request her taxes, which feels like it would be entirely plausible for her, knowing what we know of her and how she likes to put things off. Like, I don't think she would have pushed to go get an accountant unless something had happened, because even though she might think it's a good idea, she probably wouldn't do it till she was pushed, and I would imagine that would be something that would push her to do it. So the penalties for the year she's been not paying her taxes are 5% of the total amount owed. That's about just over 1,600. And then it's 1% per month up to a maximum of 12 months. So if she was on that band, she would owe another 5.5 grand in taxes if she went up to 12 months, which she's not that far off of. She's about 9 months late right now. Didn't she have to do this in April or May? Now, the thing is, the Canadian Revenue, I don't know what the A stands for, CRA, something to do with the taxes. They charge if they charged you a late filing fee in 2017, 2018 or 2019 and they had to formally request your return, they double those penalties. It goes to 10% and then it's 2% per month for up to 12 months. And that would mean her late fees are sitting at around 11 grand. That is a lot of money to owe the government. Now, what she was saying about claiming stuff back is actually very important because it's going to make quite a big difference to her taxes. Because that 32.5 grand I was talking about before, when she claims stuff back on her taxes, what actually happens is it gets taken off her total taxable amount. I got all this from Google, by the way, so if I'm out of, if I'm doing it wrong, it's Google's fault, but yeah, I didn't go searching that deeply, so blame me, it's fine. If she deducts, I said 21.9 grand was in the very, very top bracket. I could believe over the course of the year, given that she spends 3 grand plus a month on food, and if you think of all the hauls she did, and if you think of all the stuff she's bought that she's shown on camera, she could drum up with enough receipts 21 grand's worth of stuff. If she did that, it would completely knock off that top tax band. Because if she made 120 and she was able to get herself under the 98,000 mark around there, she wouldn't be taxed at the higher band because they take it off the gross amount, not the net. So they don't just refund taxes, they stop you being taxed on that amount. So she could save about 8 grand by just on both of these together by just not getting up into that band. But it takes work on her part. Sorry, I know that was a lot of numbers, but it takes work on her part because then she has to keep track of stuff. But that's business. That's part of being self-employed. That's part of the privilege you have, is that you have to sit down one day a month and just get your bag where you've got your receipts and match it up. And then you hand it to the accountant who will do all the hard stuff. And that's what she's been putting off for a year. Just, I have to sit down and look. You know, it's just... It's insane to me that that's what's stopping her when the result of how much she's going to have to pay. And I think that's why she's not looking, because how much she has to pay, like it's a hefty tax bill in general that had she just put aside a couple of grand a month, she'd be fine with. But she's not doing that. She's living closer and closer to the bone every month. And now here we are. But I would not want to give an extra 11 grand to the government because I couldn't be bothered to find a receipt. I really wouldn't.
Like, it has its pros and cons. I don't know. It's really weird. I'm just like, I need my accountant to do all this. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do it.
You're literally counting, getting the pieces of paper that have the numbers on and shoving them at your accountant. That is what you're doing.
So... I'm not like tax evading, I'm just lazy.
Could you imagine that that conversation with the tax office? You'd be like, and COVID, you know, COVID, people are trying to be understanding because COVID was very hard on a lot of people. She comes in, she said, look, I meant to pay it. I didn't mean to do this, even though she's potentially, maybe not. We've got no proof, but I could see it. Got a history of doing things late. And they go, okay, we realise that COVID has been a really hard time. We're willing to be understanding. Did you find that you couldn't pay these bills? How much are you making a month? And she goes, oh no, I'm making 12 grand a month. Or let's say 10 grand a month. And they look and they go, sorry? And they're like, well, what was stopping you? Oh, well, it wasn't that I couldn't pay, it's that I was lazy. What? In the time of COVID, you had 10 grand a month and you just couldn't be bothered? Pay your bill, give us extra, and get out of my office. Yeah, there are so many people that really COVID hit them so hard. And she's going to swan into the office with her lipstick and just go, I intended to. I had stuff to do. Is it okay if I smoke in here? You know?
So I'll have to pay a penalty. I don't even know how much it is, but...
We do. Watch the video.
I think they're being lenient because of COVID.
Yeah, for people hit by COVID maybe, and also I think you're at the point where potentially that ship is also sailing. When I looked up for these numbers, kind of what the tax brackets were for Canada, they did have a link saying if you are impacted by COVID-19 under these things, you can potentially get help. But it didn't seem to apply to anything that would include her.
So maybe they'll be nice.
and that was basically the end. You know, maybe they'll be nice. That's as much thought as she's put into it. It's the vague, yeah, that's going to be quite stiff. Oh, maybe if I just go and say, sorry, yeah, it was COVID. Oh, did COVID impact your job? No, I record from home. I can do it completely alone. Sorry, then how much did you make again? To be a fly on that wall, to have her walk in with times being what they are and try and argue that as hardship. But there we go. So anyway, that's where we are. Here we are, we're at the end. It was so nice not to have Nada in the react. It was so nice to just lift it out and be like, look, we have one topic to talk about and here we are. So I'm gonna put this together. Hopefully it won't take too much editing, and I guess I'll see you next time. Bye bye everybody.